Thanks very much, Rameshji. So we will move to the second round of questions. I think there are some very, very important issues that have been raised, particularly in the context of Professor Jha. You were raising, the question of that the South cannot and must not, in fact, emulate the practices of the North, which has moved away from land-based economies. I just wanted to ask you in that context, so what needs to be done so that we can get, progressive rights-based land reform on track, and how can this kind of agrarian and land reform set an agenda for to achieve the social political goal of a just society that is free from hunger. We heard about the great amount of hunger and people faced with starvation in Brazil, but also in India, and sort of how can we move to a ecosystem for marginalized communities that is free from sustainable ecosystem that is free from violence. So, and whatever else you'd like to say, you've seen the trend of the discussions in your next 5 minutes. Professor Jha, please.
No, first of all, express my gratitude to all the preceding speakers, including you, Milun, in terms of very sort of sharply focusing on some of the challenges and concerns that we deal with. And as regards the question that you have put to me for this round, I mean, it's the most profound question. How can we, at the end of the day, it's a political question. But with reference to sort of the economic architecture and so on, the first most important thing is to reject the contemporary model of neoliberal globalization. Because unless that is done, we just can't move forward. Anna Maria, I share your optimism. I am a great admirer of Antonio Gramsci, and Gramsci's sort of pessimism of intellect and optimism of will, right? I mean, is something which is a very important provision. Look at all these, UN has become a talking shop. It kind of keeps making all kinds of declarations which are not binding, which are always voluntary. And look at all the other treaties that we get, WTO, which becomes a binding thing, right? Then what do? I mean, this is a very strange kind of thing at the international level, which we have to keep in mind. Yes, it energizes people from below, from movements from below, and all that is most welcome. So I am completely with you on that. But this huge kind of chasm that we have to confront, right? I mean, as per the most recent stats, as we know, currently there are approximately 608 million farms in the world, right? And almost 80% are small farms. But 1% of farms operate more than 70% of world's farmland, right? And then, in addition to that, the capture that they have legally, illegally, in many other ways, somewhere in the middle zone and so on and so forth. The example that you gave from Brazil, etc., of grabs of various kinds, etc., of the commons, other resources, water, and so on and so forth. In a book which we did 2 years ago, this is with the late Sam Moyo and my very good friend Paris Yoras. It's called Reclaiming Africa, where we had focused on the grab of not only land, but all the commons and various other resources which are going on, and how to resist that politically. So the starting point has to be sort of to this very, very important political initiative to build a very powerful coalition against neoliberal kind of globalization and so on. So that will have to be the most important question that we keep in mind. With reference to, again, UN's Declaration on Rights of Peasants and other people, it was amazing to see the response and the refusal of US and UK, amongst many other countries, who voted against the adoption of this particular provision on the grounds that peasants did not exist as a distinct population. I mean, what are we talking about? How bizarre can we get, right? And you named the countries. I mean, there's so many of these powerful countries which are part of this particular game. So the real challenge is how to build a political kind of coalition alliance, focusing on very, very clearly putting petty production and smallholders, landless people at the center of this entire alliance. I think that will have to be the most important concern. We know, I mean, if I come to India, for instance, Ramesh talked about it, how in terms of provisions and laws, we might have many good things, but just look at what is happening on the ground. And currently, almost 50% of India's rural households are landless. If we look at as of 2016, compare that with 1998, there has been an increase in landlessness during this period of approximately 10% of rural households who became additionally landless. Right? So we can talk about all the numbers, but I don't think I need to get too much into these details. But I think it's extremely important to look at all the other questions relating to how to build this political coalition and each one of these different groups. Yeah, I mean, in case of India, we are really talking of 85% of farmers being marginal and small, and if you add the landless to that, essentially we are talking of almost the entire countryside. So that's the kind of situation which we have and that we need to deal with. And let me just make one last point. The land is a gift of nature. All these natural resources are a gift of nature. I mean, this is absolutely imperative that we have to make a very strong, very powerful claim that these are the commons. These were the commons. They got sort of part of the accumulation trajectories and strategies, etc., as capitalism progressed, but these must be reclaimed. So the centrality of commons is something which should be part of this political struggle that we are talking about. And specifically, since the gender question has been flagged in the note, if you look at the dependence of women vis-a-vis the entire social reproduction of the household on whatever remains of the commons, which is just a little bit now, has got reduced considerably. It's huge. You really kind of, in terms of foraging, collecting, etc. Yeah, I mean, this provides very, very important and significant component of the overall social reproduction basket. So that kind of centrality of commons again needs to be highlighted as part of the broader struggles. And I think with that, probably I have finished my allotted time. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for those very important points. And